You absolute buffoons! You monsters! We had it good! Oh, we had it so good, and you ruined it! There were about 6 months when we, the people, were allowed to enjoy fidget toys. The cubes, the spinners, little bubble wrap popping things. It was joyful, it was whimsical, and then you had to go and call it cringe, because children and the mentally ill aren't allowed to enjoy anything. By the time a major retailer caught up to the fad, it was already turning sour. The 85 pallets of bulk-shipped fidget spinners that every Walmart had ordered went straight to clearance, and I was left right back where I started, chewing on my cuticles like a shedding gecko. Lo, while the tyrannical forces of random public opinion will come for us all in the end, the coming and going of the fidget toy fad is my personal tragedy. What's this? Is it hope?
Do not fear, my child, for this video is sponsored by Bamboo Labs.
Another one?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jaxom, and though the shelves are no longer riddled with fidget spinners circa 2017, the fidget craze never died completely, despite the public ridicule which fell unjustly upon it. It encased itself into a chrysalis, turned to goo, and from goo into filament, and from filament, well, into goo again, but hot goo this time, that a robot can make into shapes. The sudden cultural backlash was certainly some part of fidget spinners going away. Once they were cringe, they were pretty much canned. You wouldn't want adults looking at you like you're a teenager, or worse, you wouldn't want teenagers looking at you like you're a millennial. On the flip side, unless you jumped straight to collecting the things, there wasn't much reason to buy any more than one fidget spinner. Once you've spun, you're done! I always liked the sensation of it, the tactile feel of the ball bearings. But I didn't need a second, or a third, or a 10th, even if some spinners were higher quality than others. Although there is a real purpose to fidget toys, which we'll talk about later, the fidget fad was built on curiosity. What does it feel like? What's all the hype about? Just how satisfying are these things, huh? Mass market was never going to be a sustainable market for fidget toys, not at the level we saw in 2017. Which ultimately makes 3D printing the perfect home for this fascinating fixation to fester. It's a world where hobbyists can make a design, test them, remake them, and retest them until the result is maximally satisfying, with just the right tolerances. And as a consumer, if you have a printer, you can use that printer to directly chase your curiosity with little to no additional financial investment. I see kinetic fidget item on MakerWorld. I go, ooh, what's that one like? And I print it. Very little delay from the moment of curiosity to the moment of discovery, of play, of understanding. Ooh, that's nifty. And then the moment my attention wanes, welcome to America, land of the bored of that already. Classic spinners, when printed, work okay. The little PLA wheel bearings are basically printed in, and it spins alright. Thankfully, spinners have only gotten somethinger, I guess, ever since the fad ended. Even though it feels like I'm gonna get sucked into it and crushed whenever I spin it, it still works. It's fidgetable. Also, wholly impractical, impossible to fit in your pocket, and it's what I like to think Jigsaw kept himself occupied with while he was pretending to be that corpse. In my testing, the printed spinners that work best are the ones made with gears. Like, they're surprisingly hefty, with a really good buzz on them. Now on the total opposite end of the complexity spectrum, we got some cones. Because of the increasing accessibility of 3D printing, pass-through objects are a trend in and of themselves. Look, here's another one, a cube thing. It's just a weird little cube that you kind of twist it around. It's either a cube or it's not a cube. The underlying shapes are probably really simple from a mathematical perspective, and I'm sure you're all very smart for understanding precisely how they work, but they're designed to look impossible. It's entrancing, but it's no illusion, just careful design and a precision printer like the A1. There is absolutely no purpose to these except as a curiosity, one that inevitably gets boring after a while, though it's a longer while than I had expected. Once again, not something you can carry in your pocket and whip out for its soothing qualities, like a spinner or a nice rock. It's just a thing. A nifty, kinda useless thing. The kind of thing that I would have bought as a kid from a KB Toys or a Science Museum gift shop, just for the privilege of trying it out. And I'm glad this sort of thing gets to exist without requiring mass manufacturing like the fidget spinner craze, mass waste of resources. You just don't need factories to be injection molding this stuff and putting them in Walmart to rot. Just let hobbyists download the model and print it for themselves. Let's not forget that the original concept for fidget toys was all about focus, stimulation, and emotional regulation for neurodivergent people. It's such a cliche at this point to label anything and everything as improves focus for children with autism and ADHD. Hear that, parent at home? Aren't you sick of your kid? Isn't your kid annoying the live, laugh, love right out of you? Well, buy product! Product will shut them right up. Not to say ADHD and autism aren't very common in kids, or that parents shouldn't try to accommodate their kids no matter what's going on clinically. But when it comes to psychological and scientific advice, any parent should be wary of what they're told by mommy blog articles and companies trying to sell them stuff. Kids' brains are weird, and adults are traditionally very bad at listening to what children say about their own experiences. Inaccurate mental health stereotypes are too often peddled in toxic parenting spaces, void of scientific evidence, and chock-a-block full of anecdotes. Just like this channel! Except the toys are children, and their entire futures are at stake with every decision. The only antidote is listening to your kids and talking to professionals. And like, accessible free childcare and accessible free healthcare, but everyone agrees with that. Right? At worst, this kind of marketing can make people who are neurotypical think you have to be neurodivergent to enjoy these things in a general way. Or it can be incredibly infantilizing to some neurodivergent adults when the messaging is basically all about kids, like that's the only demographic served by this kind of stuff. Regardless, these can and do serve an actual purpose, not as playthings, but as genuinely helpful tools. Good fidgets are things you can take with you at all times to occupy your hands so that your eyes or your mind can stay focused. Or they can just be calming if things happen to get stressful. Yeah, click that button and feel better, you little stressed out white boy. This is news for the channel, but I have Tourette's, and I am somewhere on the autism spectrum, and my childhood fidgets were always Bakugan, Beyblades, sonic screwdrivers, and my own fingernails, which I would chew on constantly in unhealthy ways if I didn't have something else to mess with. When the fad started, I eagerly jumped right on it. I had the spinner, the fidget cube, well, just those, actually. And then really quickly they were labeled as cringe things that teens are obsessed with. The Amazon listings often specify for children and adults. And, maybe I'm setting up a catch-22 here, but it kind of feels worse when they have to specify that adults are allowed to use a product. I don't need your permission, Jeff Bezos! You're not my mom! I was only truly worried about being infantilized when I was a teenager during the craze. In truth, if you really need a product to tell you that it's for adults, maybe it's better you come back when you're older. I only really worry about young people hesitating to use tools like these because they're anticipating ridicule. I didn't really have the chance to find out if fidget toys would actually be helpful to me before it got made into something embarrassing, I guess. I still don't think I've totally gotten myself out of that, but I have been gladly carrying this particular fidget on the daily with only a percentage of the shame that I once felt. 85% of it, but that's progress. There's a decent variety of simple, portable fidgets like clickers, switches, wheels, and rings, but I gotta give it to Lewis on MakerWorld, cause this thing is really lovely. It's a print-in-place model which only takes like an hour to print with no assembly required. 3 unique actions are apparently just enough to keep the cruel branch of my nervous system occupied on a daily basis. A clacky wheel, a clicky button, and swoosh? What does swoosh do? Whoa! I've only had it for about a week, but if anything happened to it, if it got broken or lost, even though I can just print another one, you'd see me on the news. It fits in my hand in a really lovely way, and even when I don't want to make noise with the clicky bits, just running my thumb against this smooth curve is actually really soothing. I don't know if that's gonna make sense to everyone who watches this, but I think there's a few of you out there who are really gonna get what I mean. The ring gyroscope type design of swoosh is a category in and of itself, some of which get, I'd say, overly complicated, but they're also print in place, so the labor it takes to print one out and see if you like it is basically zero. This one actually uses axles for each ring, so it spins in specific directions, rather than swoosh, which has each segment totally free spinning. I simply cannot imagine carrying this with me, but as a toy or as a desk-based fidget, it could work. Maybe. Bit big. I may like this one the most. I may think it's the perfect size, the perfect balance, but what if it could also do 9 other specific things? Whoa! I find it so amusing that it makes me feel stupid. Because I'm using Bamboo's 0.2mm nozzle for like all of these prints, the detail, and thus the tolerances between each moving part came out gosh darn perfectly. There's 3 joysticks, a slider, a clicky button, a clicky switch, a clicky toggle, a clicky slider, a clicky wheel, a clicky wheel, a clicky wheel, and swoosh! Okay, did you have any of these toys as a toddler? Big consoles of useless buttons? Or did you grow up sad?
Lots of fun things to keep a baby busy for hours.
I loved these kinds of toys whenever my mom would grab one from a yard sale. From my very earliest moments, I've been a button freak, and she knew it. This scene in Star Wars The Phantom Menace altered my brain chemistry from barely age 1.5. I was raised a button freak, indoctrinated by these toys from day one, with the idea that a major part of any human lifetime is getting to push a bunch of buttons to your heart's content. And then I grew up, and all of a sudden buttons have to do things? Screw you, man. This country raised us with certain expectations of a certain quality of life and certain promises. Things that we'd all get to enjoy as long as we followed the rules and did our part. And that's been systematically taken from us at every turn by those whose greed will make them empty in life and keep them eternally distant from the light of God in death. That's not related to the subject, though, which is that I miss preschool button toys. Do you need to be neurodivergent to be allowed to enjoy fidget toys? No, that's ridiculous. As long as you understand that they're actually important for some people, these things are just nice. Why? What are they for, if not as strict tools for a specific use? What's the point of all of this? To feel something, I guess? With this genre of toy, although it's been infantilized and commercialized and cringified, I see a purity of perspective within the printing community. Truly, the listings are endless. Absolutely endless. I could make this video 20 times over and never come close to showing the breadth of human creativity spent on nothing but simple amusement for some, tactile satisfaction for others, or aid for others still. It rejects the cringe, rejects the aversion to pointlessness, and rejects the greed of those who tried to profiteer on the trend, then abandoned it just as quickly. It's a bunch of people going, hey, check this out, and I frickin' love it. The only thing it took to unlock this world was the Bamboo A1 Mini, one of 2 entry-level printers by Bamboo. Despite its desktop size, this was all I needed to open myself to the infinite. Small enough to fit anywhere, big enough to print everything that I showed in this video, and powerful enough to make it all work. The Mini is packed with features that you don't really even need to know about. Vibration compensation, so a wobbly table won't screw up your prints. Automatic flow calibration, so your prints come out looking smooth. Auto bed leveling. to level your bed, yada yada yada. You don't need to know these things because Bamboo put them in specifically so that you don't have to know jack about squat to print great stuff. One upgrade is the AMS Lite, which you can get with the A1 combo package, which unlocks yet more potential with seamless, effortless multicolor printing. And for most of these prints, I used another upgrade, the 0.2mm hot end, rather than the default 0.4mm nozzle. A significant number of my audience members have gotten the Bamboo A1 or the A1 Mini after seeing these videos. Total beginners getting into the hobby to end all hobbies. And though I've already made 8 videos sponsored by Bamboo, I still feel like I've only scratched the surface of what this machine can do. Give it a shot yourself. Click the first link in my description to look at the Mini, or the second link to browse everything else that Bamboo has to offer. Bamboo is running a massive Black Friday sale throughout the month of November, with discounts as much as 47% off site-wide. It is the lowest that Bamboo's prices ever get, so now is the absolute best time to check it out if you've ever considered getting into 3D printing. Thanks to Bamboo for sponsoring this video, and now you should go watch this other video up there about how Five Nights at Freddy's might be harming children, or this video about weird 3D printed lightsabers that I made. This is JetKuso, and I'll see you next time. Did you know you can support the channel at patreon.com/JetKuso? These wonderful people do, such as Diamond patrons LUCID, LANA, CHOOKA, and RAZU, RION, Titan patrons CR107, Gusano, Banana Jones, Chell, and Douglas Fern, Hyper patrons Trouble, Mudorios, Orio, LUCID, HeartlineDai, Kevin, Haji, Sam, Caesar, James 17, Hateincarnate, my new base patron, Dalton Byrne. This was a good one. Thanks, guys.